All right, a listener question today. This is honestly, it's a question I get pretty often. I'm interested in shooting competition. How should I map out going from no experience to my first match? So, the last thing I care about is equipment, and that seems like what most people want to talk about first. So, this person's like, yeah, what experience do I need? I'll give you a few things at a bare minimum that I think you should be comfortable with. One is the admin, it sounds like common sense, but admin gun handling. So loading your gun, unloading your gun, and clearing malfunctions. If you haven't done like practical shooting before, something like that kind of a discipline, it'll probably be a little bit nerve-wracking or induce a little bit of stress for the first couple times you're out. And with that, sometimes it's easy to forget things, such as when it's your turn to load your gun, you put the magazine in, but it slips your mind to rack the slide and put it around the chamber. Or when you go to unload the gun, you could pull the slide back to rack around out of the chamber, let the slide go, but forgetting to drop the magazine first, which would then chamber into the round. So little nuanced stuff, just like at home in your dry fire training area or on the range, you could just, it sounds like dumb. It sounds very dumb, but just practice loading and unloading your gun. One nuance I think is important is having kind of a ritual for how you do such things. And what I mean is, like, I always draw my gun, obviously from the same holster. When I pick the first magazine I want to load the gun with, it'll always come from the same pouch. It's probably the very back mag pouch, or if it comes from a pocket. And then you kind of just get to the habit with whatever your procedure is, where it's the gun seated in the, or you seat the magazine in the gun, then rack it. If you watch, some people will always seat it 3 times or give it a second tap, or people always like racking the slide over the top. They always like racking it underneath, and they always use the rear cocking serrations. Whatever habits or rituals you want to have is fine, but I think it's important that you just do it the same way every time, because then it kind of just creates something that can run in the background if you have other stuff on your brain, such as trying to remember where all the targets are or the rules or something along those lines. Same thing with unloading. When it's time to unload the gun, when you're done shooting, mag out. Maybe you want to put it back in your front magazine pouches where it always goes. It always goes in your back pocket, wherever. I think it's just a good idea to have a spot that you always return it to. When I unload the gun, I'll always, it'll be the same way with that gun, whether it's the undercocking serrations or over or rear, whatever. Just have kind of a ritual where you just unload the gun, you watch the round come out, unload it. Once you're verified it's unloaded, you point at the backstop, kind of aiming through the sights, pull the trigger to dry fire, unload, or ensuring that it's unloaded. So you just kind of have a ritual for that kind of stuff. Then, if most guns don't malfunction that often, but if you would have a malfunction, you need to be able to clear that without supervision also. So just keeping the gun down range. For most people, it's just going to be remove the magazine, rack the slide a few times till whatever happens gets cleared, put the mag back in, rack it, and get back into business. So it sounds like common sense, but in a competition, you can't have supervision or anything like that. Or maybe you get coached a little bit your first time, but you need to be able to be like self-sufficient at those things. As far as the actual shooting ability, kind of 2 things that I think are the most important. One, with no time limit, you need to be able to hit, ideally the A zone of a target, but I'll say if you could hit a paper plate, like a dinner plate, at 15 yards, that puts you in a pretty good spot to do any form of practical shooting. There'll be some matches that you go to that targets are all way easier, so nothing even that demanding. But you'll also see once in a while targets farther out where it's a partial target at 15 yards or maybe 20 yards or a small popper, which you kind of just, when you see those things in matches, you'll just work through with whatever you see and then take that back to your training. But as a good starting point, I think you need to be comfortable or able to hit a dinner plate sized target at 15 yards. The other thing is you need to be comfortable moving around while handling your firearm or reloading it. So the way practical shooting is set up, they use a 180 safety rule, which what that means is basically 180 degrees. If your muzzle points past 180 degrees, so back up range of you, while you're doing clearing a malfunction or changing the magazine, something like that, that's going to get you disqualified for the day. So stuff like that would be if I'm left-handed and I'm moving towards my right and I'm working on a reload, it's going to be really easy to have my gun point back towards where people would be behind me, and you're going to get disqualified. So an easy drill I like is just if you set out 3 cones or sticks, just 3 little markers, and put out a couple different targets. You could even do 3 cones with 3 targets downrange. Just run to each of the cones and shoot each target from that cone, making sure you're able to keep your gun pointed downrange or in a safe direction while you move around, whether you're moving forward, backwards, whatever, and then able to do a reload or change the magazines while you're moving around, whether you're moving towards your strong side or weak side, without having your gun pointing back up range or pointing at yourself for anything unsafe. So that's really about it. It's not overly tough. For the outside looking in, it seems really tough. And then the last thing is just good finger discipline with your trigger finger. So anytime you're moving around or loading, unloading, changing magazines, your finger has to be away from the trigger guard or out of the trigger guard, not touching the trigger. So it's just ingraining kind of safe gun handling habits. But as long as you're able to just load, unload, clear malfunctions, and move around safely, I think you'll be good to go. It's time to just go shoot. As far as the accuracy requirement, like I said, there really isn't one because some matches will be all open targets, probably 10 yards and in, so pretty easy shooting. It'll just be very fast. But if kind of with no time limit, you can hit a dinner plate at 15 yards, I think that puts you in a pretty good spot for most of the shots you'll see in practical shooting. Lastly, as far as divisions go, that's the other thing people love to talk ad nauseum about, or it really annoys me. At new shooter meetings, I'll be like, well, you have this gun, that fits in this division, but you might want this kind, but you can't use this base pad because this magazine, like nobody cares, dude, just shut up. As long as you have a pistol chambered 940 or 45, you'll be totally fine. The holster needs to cover the trigger guard, so a strong side belt holster is fine, or appendix, if that's your thing, just has to cover the trigger guard of the gun to keep it safe. So, it can't go off while it's in the holster. Well, should not go off while it's in the holster. And as far as spare magazines go, if you have a double stack gun, so a high cap gun, probably 4 magazines plenty for about anything you're going to do. So guns that hold 15 to 19 rounds in the magazine, somewhere around there. If you have 3 or 4 of those, you'll be in a good spot. A couple magazine pouches on your belt would be helpful also. But if you don't have them, I wouldn't go buy a bunch of gear because after you see what people there have and go shoot a few matches, you're going to probably change your mind several times about what you want to buy. So anything you buy to show up with could be just something you use for a couple matches till you see something else and then you're like, I want to get that instead. That looks cool. I like the holster that guy had, the pistol or whatever. So don't spend a bunch of money. Just show up. Again, as long as you're competent and safe, that's all that really matters. No one cares otherwise. And plot twist, everyone there is going to be so worried about themselves and how they're doing. Not in a, well, some of them, yes, but not even in a self-centered way. But it's also a lot to manage for everyone else. Because the thoughts, if I'm at a match, would be, is my gear ready for the next stage? Are my magazines fully loaded? Do I remember the plan for the next stage or where all the targets are? What order am I at for shooting? Am I coming up soon? Do I have a little while? Probably helping to reset the targets, patch them. So there's enough stuff to keep people busy. No one's going to be just standing around thinking like, oh, that guy's so dumb. He forgot to rack the slide or something. Nobody cares. But if you have an unsafe accident and while you're loading or unloading your gun, the gun goes off or you point it in an unsafe direction, that people will remember. I guarantee it. So that's the important part, to be, as long as you're just able to operate your gun without supervision and you can move around safely while keeping it pointed downrange, you're good to go. So that's my spiel. I think practical shooting is worth the effort, even if it's not your life's focus or goal. If you're serious about shooting, I think it's a good way to test your skills, whether it's a sanctioned match like USPSA or IDPA or just a local outlaw hit factor kind of match. Any of them are fine. It gives you some experience kind of moving around dynamically and just trying a variety of different skills that you may or may not have at the time, such as shooting while moving, shooting really fast at close targets, shooting really accurately or still quickly at far targets, and everything in between. So I think it's worth the effort, and like I said, as long as you're safe, there's pretty much minimal training really required before you go. So hopefully that's helpful, answers your questions, and encourages you to shoot a match if you haven't tried one yet. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. So if you have any questions for me, drop it below. I will try my best to answer them. If I need to make a follow-up video, I will. In any event, appreciate you watching.